Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Danielle. I'll be your host as we discuss Pillars of Light Goddess Activations. Today we have a very special guest, Miss Lori Santo. She is our co-author in Pillars of Light Goddess Activations. Welcome, Lori. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Danielle. It's an honor.
I'm so pleased to have you. I did get an opportunity to read your chapter prior to connecting with you, and I'm so excited for everyone to read it. So before we get started in that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Well, sure. So I come from a background of a pretty traumatic life and childhood, and I came from a large family with a lot of chaos and a lot of, you know, I think pretty standardized today dysfunction.
Mm.
I was raped as a child pretty regularly. There was incest, there was physical abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, all the levels of things. And I grew up in a lot of terror. I was the oldest girl of the girls and the third of six kids. And I felt overwhelmed by the power of the dysfunction all around me.
Mm-hmm.
And never was sure how to hold on to my own or where it was located. So, uh, in terms of my path through life has been through many layers of healing, modalities of different therapies, all kinds of deep spiritual work with shaman, with ministers, with a living Buddha. I've studied a lot with great masters across the board, a lot of different modalities in religions, that kind of thing. Really looking for my connection that was always there with spirit, but to be more expressed.
Mm.
So I grew up introverted, terrified, scared, spent all kinds of years in therapy, undoing all that, understanding a lot of that, healing all that. And that work brought me to actually tapping and knowing that my entire life, I spent praying and on my knees and looking to grace and guidance to hover close to me in the midst of a lot of terror. So terror was really the driver of a lot of what drove me through my life. And then, of course, I achieved, recovery and sobriety and all the, the typical venues of straightening out. But so I have a lot of fire inside of me. I've always had. I was a little warrior even as a child, protecting all my younger siblings and relatives and cousins and taking care of business. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you for doing the work for yourself and for your lineage and the people that get an opportunity to hear who you are as an individual. Um, you have such a beautiful spirit about you, and I
Well,
love
thank
that
you.
you said protect the children because we are children, right?
That's
Just
right.
we just age, but we are still the children. So that's beautiful. Now, when you worked with Radha, what goddess came through for you when she activated you and went through the process? How did that go through?
Well, it was beautiful. Cassandra was the goddess that came through for me, and she's a fairly new goddess to me, and I am very immersed in the dark goddess energies because that was my upbringing. So,
Okay.
Kali Ma, Sekhmet, the goddess of rage, Medusa, Hecate, like a lot of the really intensely
Mm.
talented dark arts women. And Cassandra was so different because she was kind of new to me, and I sensed that she might be a little watered down, and yet it was very clear that she had something to say. And when I researched Cassandra and actually started learning about Cassandra. She was a redheaded badass goddess and Greek goddess. So she goes back, centuries, and she's beautiful. She has this, head full of red hair and this masculine kind of leaning power about her. There's like takes no crap, and she's a warrior, and she's beautiful. I mean, so beautiful. And so she was a prophet before her time and highly misunderstood, and
Mm,
actually was not valued until long after her death. So her prophecies came to life and came to pass long after she had
wow.
left the world. So she spent her life being ridiculed. People dismissed her, thought she was kind of crazy. She was different. She was odd. Nobody understood the
Mm,
prophetic nature of what she held. And when I learned that, it all made sense because that has been my life's journey. I'm highly
wow.
misunderstood. I'm really kind of the alienated oddball. Like it's just, as a sensitive and an intuitive and a powerful woman, like the complexities of that and the dimensions of that um, is what Cassandra brought to light for me. Like, wow, there's somebody there that actually had a living story. Like there's a model that was so much like my own.
Wow.
So Kali brings a particular power, right? Each goddess brings their own
Hmm.
representation and archetype and really juicy nourishment. And when I just was so related to Cassandra's story, I couldn't get enough of it. It actually left me weeping because I
Mm,
actually felt seen in a way and understood in a way I haven't quite met before. So it's
wow.
beautiful. I mean, the in the reading with Radha was amazing because it was so textured in the depths of what she represented. I felt it.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's funny because I know about a few of the goddesses, just by sheer curiosity, and I never heard of Cassandra until your chapter, and I was blown away. It's really powerful. The word goddess, when you describe or think of it, what does it mean to you, and what does a goddess represent to you?
It expresses and represents to me absolute divinity and grace. It's an alignment with my own feminine nature
Mm-hmm.
that is so complex. It's a representation to me of particular qualities that different goddesses possess,
Okay.
that they dominate in,
Yeah.
right? And so it's pretty simple, I think, for most of us to identify rather quickly
Mm-hmm.
how relatable or not, a particular theme is. So the goddess to me just represents absolute, the best of our stature, the highest part of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's so important to research and learn about them for ourselves, um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because it's an identifying experience that we can't get through any other means. I
Right.
know I like through my family, through my mentors, it's beyond that, and most of them are ancient.
Right. And it's like drawing in that energy, you want to be able to harness that. I like how you mentioned how it's complex because I think
Yeah.
sometimes the complexity of it can scare people away, but in reality, we are multidimensional. So it's like,
Absolutely. And
yeah,
particularly as sensitives, right? We
yes.
have many dimensions in time
Yeah.
and space. And so I love the goddess energies, and I don't think it's airy fairy language. I shied
Mm-mm.
away from it. I shied away from it for years because I'm like, oh, yeah, no, I'm a badass. I'm not about all that woohoo, you know. But the truth is, I'm very sexy. I'm very passionate. I'm very hot. I'm very, all the things. But it's like they contain, I don't know, the highest value to me in identifying myself um, as a sacred feminine being.
Yeah, I and too as a pillar of light because there's a lot of
Yeah,
truth.
Yes.
that you're exposing, and each goddess has its, way of bringing that truth in their like own essence. So
Yeah.
I think you're such a beautiful representation for Cassandra. And like I said, I'd never heard of her. And then when I read your story and then I made the canal, I'm like, it's just amazing. I think anyone who reads each chapter is going to be floored and see parts of themselves. And it'll really inspire people. Sometimes I think that you just need to know, like, oh, I'm not the only one going through this.
That's right. And it turns up the
Yeah.
volume in your, not only your identification, but, in your absolute knowing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
uncompromising. They're uncompromising.
Right. Exactly. Did you choose the goddess Cassandra, or did she like bring it into your being and then you like, or did,
I chose it. I,
okay.
ch-
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So can you tell us about your chapter? You don't have to go too much into detail. I don't want you to give away the whole stake, but no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm excited for everyone to read it. That's why. But I would love for you to tell us a little bit about it if you can, please.
Oh, sure. So I think that the chapter, so I haven't read it for a minute, so bear with me. Um, I'm going with my intuition here
Oh
because
yeah, absolutely.
I, so I'm an artist. So I'm a visual artist, I'm a poet, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
writer. And my childhood, while it was riddled with so much torment, I had this whole other side of me that was literally weaving magic as a kid. I had super sensitive spidey senses to the invisible realm and the spiritual realm. And my favorite fascination as a little girl was wizards, goblins, fairies, trolls. I collected trolls. I had a troll house. I had a troll playground. I had a troll.
Oh.
Everything was about like the magic and the holders of the magic and being in the forest and actually seeing figures in trees and like sensing them all around, like knowing they were all around me, protected, like everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So my imagination goes really, really hardcore into play. I think that's where my childhood really got expressed was when I
Okay.
was by myself and I could just, so I have a very technicolor imagination. It's very vivid. And so there's that piece. And so then as trauma just kept kind of like getting more intensified as I was getting older and all the sexual relationships were just insane and all the madness, right? The
Mm-hmm.
torture of my brothers and the things that I had to sit before and witness and while that was going on, there wasn't dissociation as much as I got to experience that this other thing
Mm-hmm.
about me, the technicolor version of this was I would literally sense not only the trouble going on, in front of me or around me,
Right.
but the psyches of the people causing the harm.
Interesting.
So there
Yeah.
was a healing capacity, a healing element going on while being terrified too, but
Mm-hmm.
not overwhelmed by that.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew someone was going to take care of this stuff at the end of the day. The actions going on in front of me, which were actually evil, wasn't up to me
Right.
to take care of that. So my spiritual journey was infused with, as well as my physical journey, was infused with tremendous, I don't know if the word's magic, but it was so highly creative, intensely creative. And so started all the, dreaming at night, the writing, the artistry. As a little girl, I was winning ribbons for my artistry by the time I was in
Wow.
middle school. Um, and so I became a commissioned artist and was very successful. So and so it saved me. So the story is that, and then entered the madness, in my 20s when I had to start confronting some of the dark monsters of my story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my chapter infuses a lot of being brought up around mentally ill-equipped people, mentally ill people, psychologically really fragmented and, scary people, pedophiles,
Mm-hmm.
rapists, all the things. Um, and I couldn't escape having elements of that in my own experience. So I did time in a few mental institutions. I had a really, really big challenge before me in finding the fabric of who I was in my power, because it had been taken me from the minute I got here. So my battle was literally life-saving. It was a murderous journey for me to fight the demons and slay the things that had destroyed so much of my presence, my voice, my authenticity, my
Right.
sensitivity, my sacred self. So that's really what the chapter entails, kind of weaving how I moved through a lot of that and how
Mm-hmm.
I kind of, it laid a lot of the foundation for
Yeah.
becoming how powerful, honestly, that I am today, because it's amazing to be this age and have my full hands and my feet, on the wheel of where this is all going.
Right. And truly know who you
Um,
are as an individual.
to, that's right.
Be
That's right.
rooted in that power. And it's so, it's funny because power can be many things. It can be soft, it can be intense, it could be, and I think you probably like, you've really had to master all of it under different levels of pressure, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
truly
Right.
your time to shine. I'm really excited for you. This is so,
I'm excited too.
yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. I'm
yeah.
excited about the book, and I'm excited that, in the last decade or so of my life, I've really come out like in a whole new way, taking the stage, doing stage work, slam poetry. I do poetry readings now, and like
So
it's amazing.
inspiring.
It's fun, and it's on time, and
Mhm.
it's ancient. The things I write about are very, very ancient. So I'm tapped into something very rooted and grounded. Um, and it's beautiful. I'm just getting started.
We're excited to hear another chapter. So I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you felt prior to the activation and then afterwards and how that um, kind of like made it a little solidified for you and gave you more clarity.
Sure. So, wow, the session with Radha was super powerful. It was immediate.
Okay.
The presence of Cassandra, the presence of, well, there was a lot of energy happening. While I felt totally safe and held in this space,
Mm-hmm.
Radha is quite sophisticated at tapping into what's in the way, what what
Yeah.
needs to kind of go.
Yeah.
And when she started her process of doing that work, wow, I could feel it. I could feel
Mm.
it actually leaving. I could feel things. I mean, she spoke to it so directly, and it was really dense in the way she explained it, and it took a lot of time.
Okay.
And clearing, I mean. But
Yeah.
so the process was really exquisite. I love the nuances of the unspoken, right? And it's an unspeakable, unlanguaged kind of experience. It's so because it's so experiential, right? And it's
Uh-huh.
different for everybody.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
depending on our openness, how
Mhm.
accessible we are. And so Radha went really deep, and it was so beautiful. And I just remember getting very emotional. Um, Such gratitude for the privilege, really, of letting myself be more crystallized,
Mm.
more true, more true.
Mhm.
And by the time we were complete, I felt incredible illumination. And it wasn't like, oh, it was like I felt light, I felt seen, I felt
Mm.
clear, crisp, excited. My heart was open, like more deeply, like I couldn't wait to like go outside. I felt like I could run a marathon.
That's awesome.
I literally felt like I could run a marathon. I used to be a marathon runner, and so I felt like that, like I just needed to get out and dance and
Okay.
like celebrate the shifts and the lightness of this. There was a play about it. As much as it was dense and it was hard work, it shifted. It shifted. And by the end, it was, it took my breath away. It was unforgettable for
That's
sure.
amazing.
And I was so anchored in like, I actually embody Cassandra's energy
Mm-hmm.
and I see it, and it wasn't so subtle. It was like, I see it. I
Yeah.
feel it. I'm unafraid. I'm becoming more and more untamed and more unleashed and more authentic and more real. And I
Mm,
don't care what it costs me now. I will burn to death for my truth.
I love that.
And I didn't
Wow.
have that before.
Wow.
And I can say that without hesitation. And I would literally burn to death for my truth. That's
Mm,
an incredible gift.
that's powerful. Wow. Okay, so when you did hear about the Pillars of Light, and she approached you about it, what how did you feel about it? Did you feel drawn to it? Did you uh what came through your mind?
I did feel drawn to it and kind
Mm,
of like a moth to a flame.
okay. Got it.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. That'd be really cool. Because I'm an author and I've been in other books,
Hmm.
I've authored other books,
Yeah.
and all, and so and then I was like, yeah, the light thing though, because my thing's pretty heavy, and my journey's been really dark. Do you understand when you've been in the underworld and spent
Mm,
most of
yeah.
your life there in the Poseidon adventure, you're like down there with like that's really what it was. And then you come
Mm,
up on the back of a monster and then you're like, oh, the light, so there's also this tendency in a lot of spiritual circles where it's all about love and light, and I'm
mm,
not attracted to that. I think the balance is so important of the dark.
absolutely.
Can't have light without the density of the dark. Can't
Oh,
have.
wow. You're
But
so brave.
my orientation was more in the dark, and I'm not used to being seen. So I was kind of like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah. I was doing that for a while, and she was really tenacious with me, and just kept because you know we become good friends through the process. She's like
Mhm,
she made it so safe and
mhm.
so just contained it and held it so beautifully that I lost whatever resistance I had very quickly because
That's a good way to say that.
before the door
Yeah.
opened, like you're just
Yeah.
be brave. You're brave. Like you're so brave. What do you?
You really are. Yeah, I know. Your chapters and I mean it's honestly pretty intense, but it's like the type of intense that people there's still a lot of people who do have these life experiences, and I think just as much as the light, we have to love the dark so we can bring it to the light.
That's
You
right.
know, there's is a
Right.
lot of I understand what you're saying about the spiritual community on it's a lot of just light, light, light. But I think more people are waking up to that's not healthy. Like, you know,
Yeah,
and
not only that,
yeah.
it's actually can shut people down very quickly who come from
Yeah.
trauma informed life
Yeah.
and totally turn you off. It did me in an instant, and I had to I had to start staying away more from those communities that
Yeah.
honor the lights. You know,
Yeah. No one came here perfect, right? We all
yeah,
have our traumas. Some are
exactly
just
right.
different than others.
Different levels. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you feel your soul purpose is then on earth as a pillar of light?
I think I have a lot of messages to carry for people who have been through trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that I guess to say it in a sole purpose, it would be to model no matter what insanity you have survived, no matter how much you've been torn to shreds, I've lived through mental institutions. I've been hospitalized. I've been upside down over and over. I've had it all. Mental illnesses of my own sort. No matter what, you can come back from anything, no matter what.
Power of the mind.
Genuinely, I think it's more than the mind. I think it's much deeper than that. I think it's a soul. I don't like the word mission, but a soul value that if we allow it to leave, we'll find all the props to get you to where you want to go, no matter what, no matter what. And so today, in my heart of hearts, I want to be a stand for women who've been through radical abuse, severe abuse, who never thought they could come through it, let alone be seen. Because it's no longer okay to go through these things quietly and alone.
Right.
You don't need to. So it's that. I want to be a stand for all the people who, particularly younger people. Every tragedy deserves a platform to be heard and seen. And we're carrying so many of them right now. Right? So I think part of it is just letting it be safe for others to do the same, no matter what the journey.
That's really beautiful. And you're doing that right now. So thank you for living your soul's purpose. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, everyone I've been, talking to is just, you guys have such big hearts, and everyone goes through what they go through, like we're saying, the trauma. Yeah, I'm just so touched by the love that everyone's bringing to humanity. So it's really nice.
Me too. And I think the most important question of our day right now, this is my heart lives from, it's no longer about what's wrong with you, right? All the years we spend in therapy figuring out what's wrong. It's not even about that. It's about what happened to you. And to say it and embrace it with meaning in the faces of homeless people, in the faces of, vets from wars, whatever it is, old people, young people, no matter the story, we all need a place to be held and seen inside of our experience, no matter. So what happened to you, I think, is the leading pressing expression for me right now.
Thank you so much, Lori. So I know that you've been working with Radhaa. Would you recommend our viewers to Radhaa and Radhaa Publishing? How would you explain their process if they were to work with Radhaa?
In a heartbeat.
Not even a question.
Not even a question. And I love and appreciate so much about Radhaa and Radhaa Publishing is the organic nature of how she allows things to come in and be processed. And there are guidelines and boundaries and deadlines, but there's not this pressing, get it on print. She's so committed to the authentic soul expression, not the story, the packaging, how it's going. I love how committed she is to authenticity. And I don't think that I've worked with other publishers because I've co-authored 3 books. And so, how do I say this? Radhaa genuinely makes things so easy. It can be written how you want, or you can have it go to the editors. There's not like it's this or this, it's black or white. It's just, like this is our formula, take it or leave it.
I like the authenticity. I like what you're saying because I agree. Yeah.
If it's true to you, put it in. That's kind of her whole motto. If it's true to you, put it in. And so I really deeply respect that. So I think she's the go-to for all things publishing.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you. I'm so glad you're part of Radha Publishing, and thank you for taking the
Too.
time to be here tonight. And I look forward to hearing
You.
future publications with you. And actually, I'm going
Me.
to link all your information down below so our
Okay.
viewers can reach you. So we'll go ahead and post that along with Radha Publishing. And everyone, have a great night. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, Lori, once again. I really
Thank you,
appreciate you.
Danielle, so much. Thank you.